Welcome to the Inspired Caring Podcast, where women who are in the messy middle of this big, beautiful, and sometimes chaotic life are finding inspiration and resources to care for themselves and figure out the best options to care for their aging loved ones. How we take care of ourselves today impacts how we are aging tomorrow. This podcast will help you feel seen, centered, and aligned. Everyone that relies on you is so lucky to have you in their life. The Inspired Caring Podcast is your reminder that the number one person that counts on you is yourself. Congratulations on being here in this moment. Let's dive in and be inspired. Today, I am pleased to welcome to the podcast Jason Ott, the author of No Cure, No Problem, with this fabulous cover art, and talk about the art of healing. Welcome, Jason.
Hello, Michelle. Very well, thankful for you having me here. I love and have connected on what you're doing to help so many people as well. So I'm excited to talk more about that.
Yeah, we usually see each other at 5:30 a.m. in gym clothes.
Right. So this is a little different right now.
Yeah, it's afternoon. The work that you do in the world is so important. You have several businesses and you're just really passionate about helping people heal. We have so much chronic illness in the United States right now. I know that over 56% of Nebraskan caregivers are suffering with one or more chronic illnesses. And so I just am really hopeful with the book that you wrote about how do we actually help reduce or eliminate some of the problems that we're facing. You open the book with just a really powerful, impactful, sad story about your mom. So if you're up for just sharing a little bit about your mom and that beginning journey.
Yeah, I think it definitely was sad during that time, right? Like growing up, I was young. Both my sisters were young. I was the youngest out of all three of us. And anytime you hear the C word, cancer, everyone's heart, drops. I had no clue what that even meant when I was, 5, 6 years old anyway. But as I grew, as I aged, it started to evolve into how can I take something that is perceived by most people as a negative thing and try to find the silver lining to evolve that message into how, whether it's me and you, our families, caretakers, how can we evolve this to say, can we do this better? Can we do it in a different way? And so like during that time, she had brain cancer. She's an identical twin. So genetically the same as her twin. My mom got brain cancer. She beat it. We needed to do surgery. We needed to do the harsh, at that time, radiation and chemo back in the 90s. And she remained cancer-free till the day she died, but she never was the same again. She became on disability and slowly found herself in a nursing home by about the age of 50. But her twin, who had the exact same genes, has never had cancer and is still alive.
Wow.
So like I couldn't move past that, where when all I heard about was genes. But here's a situation in which there had to be something more than, oh, you were born with this, so you're screwed.
Right.
So it kept driving the question all through my youth. I mean, I remember, and I think I talked about it in the book, of like using dial-up internet and trying to do research and print out articles and send them to doctors' offices, which is just like, looking back is so funny now, but to see like, what else is there? And I never really got a solid answer until I got older and started to pursue school myself to understand about epigenetics and some of those other factors that play a part.
Well, and here you are, a young man, heavy in a caregiver role. And think people underestimate the impact that has on a young person's life. Because I think we just do things for our family members. We're just helping out and participating and doing things, but you were very involved in the care of your mother.
Yes. Yes. And I'm still trying to understand that personally, because like
Yeah.
it shapes and molds and impacts you. As you know, even as an adult, it will change who you are at the core. So it's a big part of, I think, what shaped my brain to
Mhm.
think and be inquisitive the way it is now today. But no, it definitely something now that I think is one of the best things that played out and happened. And I was lucky enough to have conversations with my mom towards the end of her life to discuss the positive impact that her life and our experience can have on people, and try to help her cope, deal with that, understand it, as she was not where she wanted to be in her 50s, like so many other mothers are, where they're expecting grandchildren and that type of thing. So no, I think mentally I'm still processing the depth of what that does to shape you.
Yeah. It's just so powerful. And it completely shifted the trajectory of what you thought your career might be into where you have landed today.
Yes.
So
yes.
what did you think you were going to be when you grew up initially?
Well, I would have to say my first real career I thought I was going to be a sports broadcaster. I was pretty real with myself. I was like, there's no way I'm playing professional sports. So what's the next best thing? I can just watch them, travel around and broadcast them and help commentate the games. And then this experience definitely changed that, because then my mindset kind of turned to like, how do I bulletproof my body? How do I start to make changes now so I can be healthier later?
Yeah. I can just envision you, this young Jason Ott, sitting on his computer with his dial-up, finding articles, and what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And the doctors are like, man, this is not what we learned in medical school.
Right.
This is not how we treat patients right now. And so let's flush that out a little bit. Like, how is the current system set up? Our current, I don't love calling it healthcare. I think it's more sick care. So how is the current system set up?
How I see it is set up is you live your life, do whatever you want. And then once you get sick, then we can start to talk about what changes you might want to consider. But I know you don't want to give up your lifestyle. So how can we just slap a Band-Aid on it so you can keep doing exactly what got you sick to begin with?
Ouch. Ouch.
That's what it feels like anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Totally.
We don't want to stop in any capacity and kind of pause and say, well, why is this going on? And is there something I should learn or change from this situation? And I don't think it's evolved much, because I do have to give credit to, I believe in lifestyle and I believe in natural sides of things, but there was no herb or supplement that was going to take this huge tumor on my mom's frontal lobe and just make it disappear. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's emergency medicine. It worked for the emergency we had, but after that, all right.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. And I think we're still in that same crisis in healthcare. Is like, if you are lucky enough to come out the other side and have some health left, what the hell do you do from there?
Right.
And I think we're still in that boat. So for me, it's like emergency care that's never evolved. And so many people, even if they want to become healthier, I meet a lot of people that get very frustrated with their doctors because they're like, they don't tell me how to eat. They don't tell me how to manage this, unless you're lucky enough to have a functional medicine doc or someone like that in your corner. It has not evolved in 30 years. And we're still doing the same thing.
My stepdad had pancreatic cancer and he has subsequently passed away, but he's Canadian, and he would go to the doctor and they never took his weight.
Whoa.
And my mom just thought that was so bizarre that they weren't monitoring because his weight fluctuated way
Yeah.
prior to the cancer. He had his weight fluctuated. And that was something that you mentioned in the book, that here you are, this seemingly healthy weight, and you felt strong, but you had all these undercurrent things happening
Yes.
that were leading to a potential problem. So I guess I'm interested in just talking about that a little bit. Like, because I feel very fixated on the number on the scale, especially as a middle-aged woman.
Mm.
And I'm learning from you and Luke at the gym about what other metrics can we be paying attention to and what other things can we be doing. So I guess just when we think about the kind of that standard model of care, um, and we're thinking about chronic disease and illness, what are some of the things that we should maybe otherwise be focused on than the obvious things?
Yeah.
Very long
Yeah.
question.
It is, but like to your point, it is like sick care, because it's like we measure sick metrics and then help people get out of the metrics that make them not sick anymore, but it doesn't make them healthy. So
Mhm.
instead of what does health really mean? So that became a constant question, because when I started to have my own health issues and then look back on, okay, what's the difference? Yeah, genes matter, but not that much. If with my mom's situation anyway, there has to be other big factors. So I started looking around going, okay, well, what makes you healthy and what is our focus? And I think, geez, it was probably before I went back to school, I probably had 8 or 9 different certifications in exercise, from performance to corrective movement. Okay. They never talked about the longevity of your body, the
Hmm.
function of that body in your 80s, 90s, or about like organ health. Shouldn't the first way that I'm learning about exercise be to influence preventing a cardiovascular issue later in life, whether we're talking a heart attack, stroke, or shouldn't we be learning how to exercise for type 2 diabetes or for cancer prevention? All they talked about was, this is how you can build muscle. This is how you can lose weight and have abs. This is how you can look. This is how it's like, okay. But what really affects us as we get older is our organ health.
Mhm.
And so we want to still have health as we age, yet none of the original schooling gave me any real insight into that. It was more about mold and shape the outside of your body. And in my opinion, who
Yeah.
cares what it's doing to the inside of your body?
Yes.
Because
So
some of the
no, go ahead.
because some of the best things that were growing muscle and making me aesthetically pleasing on the eyes were harming my liver, were harming my kidneys to the point of having high blood pressure, made me pre-hypertensive in my early 20s. And once I actually went back to school and started to learn, like, oh, too much protein can do that to your blood pressure and your kidneys, I started like shaking my head, like, how come no one ever warned us in all of these other areas of exercise and nutrition that our fitness industry is built on? It
Right.
was a weird paradox of like, is this really health?
And I mean, here you are, you look fit and you feel strong, but inside things are going awry. What were some of the symptoms that helped you dial into that in your body? I'm just thinking about other people who are maybe on this journey and they're doing the things that they feel like they're supposed to be doing. Like, I work out, I eat relatively well-ish, I drink moderately-ish. What are some of the things that would give us a clue that maybe there's more going on that we need to be checking out?
I think that if you start to feel some of the normal societal feelings where they're like, oh, that's what happens in your 30s. Oh, that would be my first light bulb. Is it
Okay.
is not normal, actually. It's normal when you're using the metrics of sick care. So for me, looking back, that wasn't normal constipation when I was a kid. That wasn't just because I needed a little bit more fiber or this or that. Like there was things that led to me building up that were classified as normal, no pain, no gain, or just part of the process, that were actually huge warning signs that many of the people that I work with today, when I do their health history, I go back to the childhood and teenage years and early 20s and try to, get those things out of them, because that gives us clues on what the body's burden was when we were younger. So getting strep throat constantly to the point you get your tonsils and adenoids out and you think, oh, we're good to go. I don't got strep throat anymore. Where'd the strep go? You swallowed it. It went in your stomach. It went through your liver and your intestines. So like later in my life, I found out doing a stool test, I had strep that was in my intestines. That was part of my colitis. But my family was a strep carrying family. So my microbiome, that was a hole in our history, meaning my family. So it's like, because then you meet other people that are like, I don't know that I ever had strep once growing up. Oh, well, I know it's normal, but how come some people don't and some people do? And is there a link to an immune system that maybe is not as strong as it should be? Which in my case, I feel like mine was not as strong as it should be. And that's why I had an autoimmune issue in my 20s.
Wow. That is landing so hard with me because we are a family of 5. I have 3 kids. And I feel like at any given point, myself or the 3 kids have had strep come and go over the years. I've not, in 25 years of marriage, heard of my husband having strep.
Why? It's like, why? What's
I've
different in his
literally
biology?
never thought about that. Yeah. I want poop samples from everybody. I want answers. I mean, it's just so interesting. And I think some of what we're talking about here, these are the clues that help us. I want to go as far as to say is prevent chronic illness. And so many people are living with a chronic illness like type 2 diabetes or these autoimmune. I have Hashimoto's. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, 20 years ago, which I rarely think about it. But I have this sense that I have to live with it and, quote, manage it versus this concept that it could be reversed or eliminated. Reduced or eliminated, I guess.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about that, because the title of your book is No Cure, No Problem, The Art of Healing. So let's talk about how can we look at chronic illness differently?
Well, I think that is best explained by where I found myself. So I was early 20s, no insurance, trying to figure out and navigate why this happened to my mom, but not my mom's twin. Then I start having high blood pressure. I eventually blood in my stool, eventually get the verbal diagnosis of this is in the family of a really bad IBS, colitis, might be Crohn's. We need to do some more testing and get in there and find out. And when I heard the body was attacking itself, it conflicted with my spiritual beliefs.
Oh.
Because of my faith that if we can get sick, we got to be able to get well. I mean, there's polarity, hot, cold, up, down, right, left, health and sickness. Why would my body, if my body was built and designed only to attack itself, it should have been doing that when I came out of the womb. If all of a sudden it is attacking itself now, what changed? So then when I get into that, when you go and you go to, whether you want to go to WebMD or any medical school, it's an autoimmune theory still. So autoimmune has been around for 50 plus years, all different forms of it. We still have not been able to factually prove that it is attacking the body. It's still a theory. So it was hard for me to want to do all this and all this medicine if there wasn't a guarantee it would work anyway. And I would need shots, surgery to remove parts of my colon or whatever it is. So since I didn't have insurance, I was like, well, how about I do all the things I know I should do that my mom would have told me as a little kid to do? Because we do a really good job of telling our kids, you need to sleep, you need to drink water, you need to eat your fruits and veggies. all the stuff I stopped doing in my 20s,
Right.
because you're partying, you're living your life, and see how far I can get again. And so I began finding different lifestyle medicine doctors, herbalists, functional medicine, some functional medicine, that were like, hey, look, it's built on a theory, but what if we asked a different question? What is the body actually responding to? And is there something there that it is actually attacking? So if we took my disease, colitis, my large intestine is under attack to the point I have blood coming out in my stools every time I have a stool. What's in there? When you ran like a GI map, Diagnostic Solutions does a great stool test. There's many other companies that do a great job too, but it'll tell you your healthy levels of your gut bacteria, because everyone's got to take a probiotic nowadays.
Okay, wait. What are the names of the companies that you just said?
It's Diagnostic Solutions.
Okay.
And it's their GI map stool test.
All
so
right.
On that test, it's not just going to give you a vague description of, hey, you got something in there, you have SIBO or IBS. Well, what's causing it? I could not get off of the specific what's causing it. When you actually go in there and you test the microbiome, so we have more bacteria cells on us and in us than we have human cells. That's a big deal. That's a lot of bacteria and bugs. We have healthy ones, we have unhealthy ones, we have neutral ones, we have all kinds of them. They all perform different jobs. Every organ, every system uses these. Okay, what would make sense is I was living my life, and due to the amount of stress that I was under and my family was under growing up, that severely damages gut bacteria, right? And you know that we were dealing with some heavy stress since I was a kid.
Yes.
So that's a lot of damage, right? Then I coped wrong. I ate bad foods. I drank alcohol. I tried to push down every emotion I possibly could, which damages bacteria more. And then one day my body said I had enough. And it completely checked out. I say it's when my body broke. And I stopped going to the bathroom. All that was going on. So the question I had in my head logically was, what changed in my gut bacteria? So that stool test will tell you what your healthy levels are. Do you have too much or too little or none at all? It'll tell you, do you have bacteria overgrowths like E. coli, strep, staph, all different kinds of viruses, fungus, yeast. I mean, you can find out everything. So your healthy bugs and your unhealthy. And when I did that test, you have strep in an infectious amount living in your intestines. I had Epstein-Barr virus, and I believe also there was traces of a shingles virus as well. So this came out in the stool test.
Oh my gosh.
So now is it more likely to say my body is attacking the intestines for no reason at all? Or did my microbiome shift to the degree that I had an infectious level and my immune system was not attacking its body, it was attacking where this bacteria was present? And so now if we fast forward, we've been able to do that, at least in the clinic I'm in, with a lot of the autoimmune conditions, is find the pathogens in someone's body that it's actually attacking in that organ system. If it's RA, it's your joints. Hashimoto's, your thyroid or your endocrine system. You start to find where these things live and the epigenetic factors or the environmental factors that are making that happen. So once I did find that, that's where the study of herbalism came into my life, and I began practicing, putting antimicrobial herbs, antibacterial, antiviral. Lo and behold, a couple years later, I found myself without those being tested in my intestines because I knocked them down and my symptoms were gone.
Wow.
Now, I oversimplified it. Don't get me wrong. It took me a few months to be able to have a bowel movement every day. It took upwards of a year before all the blood stopped. Like there was a series of healing, but I knew my body was feeling better.
Yeah.
So then I zoomed out to go, I got to go back to school and learn more here, because could it just be that the body's responding to pathogens which do change over your life in your microbiome and it's not really even attacking itself. So where no cure, no problem came from was a lot of these things that we're addressing with emergency medicine are chronic health conditions that are more environmentally based than they are us. Of like, you're just broken, you're screwed, your genes are bad, and you're destined for sickness the rest of your life, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And I appreciate that the first red flag that you just gave a few minutes ago that people should be aware of is if they're blaming their age for symptoms that they're having.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's just in combination with everything else you just mentioned. Just because I'm 50, I should still have energy.
Right.
I should still poop every day. I should still not feel nauseous throughout the day and things like that. So don't just blame symptoms that you're having based on age or the other things that you just shared.
Right. Agree. 100%. Because it's like, of course, things are going to change as we're on this planet longer. But we have to ask why they're changing. And I think that's what drives me more so is when there's the outliers of people. Well, why has your husband not got all the strep, but you guys have?
Right.
What is different in your bodies? There's a reason for it.
Yeah, this is my thinking face. If you're watching the video, like, why is that? I am really interested in exploring that. So herbalism, what is that?
I would say how I define it is the study and use of plants to help the structure and function of our organ systems. So it's not to address diseases, it's not to treat diseases. And so any person that comes and sees me in the clinic, I make sure to make that very clear that I'm not going to give you herbs for your Hashimoto's, or I'm not going to give you herbs for your MS or that cancer you're dealing with. I'm going to look at the organ system, and there are herbs that have specific actions to help thyroid function, to help your endocrine system, to help your body deal with toxicity better, to help clean up your microbiome. So we're more focused on if there's a symptom or a label of a disease being present in somebody, what organ and what organ systems are mainly affected, and why is it affected? Is it a deficiency of nutrients? It could be a number of things, right? So it's more we're looking at the body as a whole, and then the individual organ systems and how they're all intertwined, and trying to improve the function and structure of the organs so they work better.
What's coming up for me is I have blood work done annually, and my numbers have been, quote, normal or within a normal range, which I'm starting to question what normal is anymore.
Right.
Like if so much of our population is living with chronic illness, and what is normal? But anyway, some of my numbers have changed and they're directly tied to my liver and kidney. And the doctor has been like, well, everything else is within normal range, so we're not going to worry about that, even though those two numbers aren't A, what they were, and B, are out of the range that they have been in of what is considered normal.
Yeah.
Like that seems worth investigating.
I think it is. And have you heard of the book Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia?
Yes, I've read that one.
So it's great because there's a doctor who's a cancer surgeon who goes, you know what, looking back on my career, there are red flags that I weren't told were red flags, that if I would have told my patients who at 37, what they are knowing now at 57, I could have saved them from having that liver problem. I could have saved them from this stage 4 prostate cancer because I could have let them know, hey, maybe get that checked out when you were 37, and we could start getting ahead of this with lifestyle change. So I think we need more doctors like that are willing to say, you know what, it's not okay that you're starting to be out of the normal in your kidney and liver. Let's get those back in and try to figure out why the heck this is going on with it. Because I think that's essentially what we don't do. We wait till the sickness comes.
Right.
And then we deal with it.
So in a case like mine, is GI mapping like the first thing that you would do, or is there another intervention or thing that you would take a patient through? If someone that's listening to this is saying, you know what, my blood work has been a little janky or out of range as it has been in the past, and I'm sort of not sure where to start. So first of all, start by getting No Cure, No Problem, the book.
Yes.
We'll
Frame
start,
your mind up.
yeah. And then what would be then another step?
I would say in general, because depending on where you're learning and listening to this podcast from, the way I framed the book up was to help you find the right professionals who look at the body this way.
Okay.
So whether you're starting with your mind, your body, or your spirit, find integrative doctors, find lifestyle medicine doctors. They can handle every medication issue you need. They can read all the blood work. They can take you on and off medications, but they're educated in the power of lifestyle, food, exercise, in preventing and reversing disease. So you're going to get holistic advice now where it's like, you know what? Maybe we don't got to do anything medically for the liver and kidneys, but we can make these diet changes and let's see where you're at in 6 months. You might come back in with normal numbers or back what they used to be for the last couple of decades. So I'd say first is like, you got to find the right people that are going to look at you first as an individual person in mind, body, spirit as a whole, right? Then from there, I understand the microbiome. So yes, I'm very biased towards stool testing because I know the ripple effect. I know how to fix it, change it with herbs and food very well. But each person's going to be a little different. In your case, I would be curious to know if you're absorbing nutrients. If you have an absorption issue that's starting to affect the cellular level of the liver and kidneys to the point that it now can't keep your blood health the same it's been over the years prior to, because that is something that happens and goes on. So can we look at absorption? Maybe that leads us to needing to know, hey, it's a bacterial. We need to know what's going on in your bacteria and enzymes. Maybe it's a methylation issue in the liver where has nothing to do with necessarily your microbiome. But that's where I'd kind of start is like, why is it building up? Why aren't your liver and your kidneys keeping up and keeping those numbers where you want them? Pending the fact that I'm assuming this is happening with not making any major big changes in your life. So you're like, oh, this shouldn't be happening.
Right. Well, and I'll say that I shifted my relationship with alcohol many years ago, like 8 years ago, and I didn't have a sip of anything for 6 years. And that because I just didn't feel like I was processing it very well anymore. And then after I stopped drinking, the numbers got strange, which I think is interesting. Anyway, I think it's sort of like to me, it circles back to we focus on our health in relation to a number on a scale. And I was focusing on my liver in relation to the quantity of alcohol I was drinking. And there's just other things that are happening inside. Yeah. So what we're talking about are some principles within holistic health. Is that accurate? So you have 8 principles that you share.
Yes.
What are they?
I'll try to remember them all off the top of my head. So the 8 healing principles in the book are these 8 different principles were related back only to one thing. So you asked the question earlier about health, like what is health? What is healthy for us, right? So I've come up with a definition. If it first helped me to either reverse or stop the progression of something disease related to my body, well, that's pretty healthy then. But now the testimonies I share in that book, every one of those testimonies, whether it was someone with Lyme, someone with cancer, heart disease, whatever it is, they all lived those 8 principles. So those 8 principles to me are defining what each of those people had to do in order to actually reverse or go into remission. So when someone's like, what's a healthy food? It's an individual thing,
Mhm.
but how are you defining the health? Because if I talk to the bodybuilder, he's going to tell me the one that gives me abs.
Mhm.
But if I talk to the person that just had a heart attack, he's going to tell me the one that helps his heart and his cardiovascular system. So those 8 different principles, knowing your disease timeline, figuring out your belief hierarchy, making sure that you're going to have a village around you. You're not stuck in like one area, but you're getting informed consent.
Mhm.
These are all the things these people had to do to get the full scope of their health to the point they could actually start stopping whatever they're dealing with. So for me, they're very specific to what I believe through my experience.
Mhm.
So they're not necessarily ones I learned in school anywhere, but sharing from what I've seen people heal from.
That's amazing. It's like you have worked with thousands of people and you've taken those, found those common denominators of what was successful for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And repeatable. I think
Right.
that's huge. Is it can't just be a one-off. It can't just be like a my mom situation, right?
Right.
But that's only one set of identical twins. If you look up the hundreds and thousands of different identical twin studies, you're going to find all sorts of the same type of stories that I lived. And you start to piece together the patterns.
I appreciate that you weave through a spiritual component to all of this as well. Share with me a little bit about what that means to you.
To me, it was
Just
everything. It was everything I, because of what I shared in the book, a lot of people, we get our direction, whether it's you had a really trusted parent or maybe a mentor of some sort, but you kind of learn how to think and approach the world that way. I didn't feel I had that because we were stuck in helping her. And at the time, my father wasn't around there. So it was like at that moment in time, I didn't know what the heck was right. So when I got sick, my first question was like, not what do I do, but like, what do I believe? What is right? I don't even know what direction. I don't got anyone to ask.
Mhm.
So for me, I had to develop that first and figure out what do I put my faith in if I'm going to put my faith in a belief that I can get better. And what does that look like? So for me, it was the starting point because without having having something to say, even if, like I heard a statement that it was like, uh, even if is faith driven, fear driven is just like what if. So it's
Mm.
like, even if something comes up, I know I'm going to get through it because I believe in this. Instead of
Mm.
like, what if, oh, I just got to give up. So for me, I needed that to then organize my mind to figure out what I believe in, to how to organize my emotional health, how I treat people, how I interact in the world, how I feel I could be of value to anyone. And then my body could finally actually get well. But it was like, to me, how can someone's body get well if you don't have a belief and a faith to take action on?
Mm.
Because I think a lot of us are stuck in that like where we don't know what to do, so we just don't do anything at all. We kind of dabble, but we don't commit.
So pick one thing and try it on and commit to it.
Sometimes. Because sometimes you got to pivot early on, but
Yeah.
that's where the belief hierarchy comes in, right? It's like if you start to see it's not working for you, then you can make that pivot sooner. But if I didn't have a lens to look at life through in a way that could actually like help me, I was never gonna organize it or help anyone else organize it. So for me, the spiritual component, I don't know how healthcare does not have that in there. I don't get how we separate that completely.
Mm.
Um, because I mean, that's a huge part of who and what we are, regardless of your religious beliefs.
Well, and I think ancestrally there was so much more connection with that. And obviously, there are many cultures where it's so deeply ingrained into their communities, the spiritual beliefs. And I feel like, I genuinely feel like the world would be an easier place to live in if people felt more connected to something.
Agree.
Yeah.
That lack of connection. I mean, you could boil down why I had the sickness that I did was because I didn't have authentic connection. I mean, I was so scared to lose anything because I lost everything before I had it, right? That subconsciously I was pushing everyone and anything out of my life, whether I knew it or not. Like I wasn't grounded or connected in anything.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 1,000%.
Are you willing to talk about your changing your relationship with alcohol?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that that was one of, I mean, you obviously had this very traumatic childhood and upbringing as a young caregiver to your mom. And then as you entered into your own life and started on your own in your 20s, you said that was just part of your coping mechanisms. And obviously, being in your 20s, it's also just what people tend to gravitate towards. But what did that look like for you? Because I think a lot of caregivers are managing their bodies in unhealthy ways. So what did you have, like an aha moment? Was there an episode or situation, or what happened?
There definitely was a little bit of all of that. It takes my daughter being born was a huge motivation because I didn't change right away. But when I had always told myself as a kid growing up, like, I'm not going to be the same type of parents or put my kids in the same situation that I was in. So there was an aha moment. And I write about the dark night of the soul in the book, where it's like, it like felt like it hit me. And it was this eye-opening moment of like, if you keep living this way and putting yourself last, there won't be a self left for your kid. And now, because at that time it was a transition where my mom was going into full care. We knew she wasn't going to have too much time left. And it was almost like a door was opening in a way that is like, it can't be your excuse anymore to not care for yourself, as it had been for a long time. And it was how I justified it. Well, I'm going through this, so that's why I do this. And then that's not going to be there anymore. So it came to a moment in time where I had to make that decision around, well, what am I going to be? Which direction do I choose to go? And so there was a big aha moment, and it was layered with a culmination of many things to where I just made that decision that I was not going to figure my way out if I kept polluting my mind.
Wow. Was that, I mean, when you decide something, is it easy for you to just shift gears? Because I know for me, I spent 4 months very angry and resentful that I couldn't drink the way other people drink. And I spent a lot of time, I would find myself just like in front of my mini fridge. I have a built-in mini fridge for beverages in my kitchen, as one would. And I would find myself standing in front of it, not even remembering walking over there. And then I would just intentionally have to catch myself and go sit on the couch and cry. And I felt very sad. And it was really hard. It was really, really hard for me those first 4 months, especially. And then it eventually got easier. But for you, what was that process like?
Because
it's one thing to say, I need to make a change. It's another thing to say, you know what, my body needs something different. And I know that it can't function in this manner anymore. Like my liver needs this, but like actually making that habit change and doing it. Sure. I would love to hear about what your experience was like.
It was extremely hard. I think I got really, really scared for the first time and really saw how it could end badly in my mind. But no, I feel like I was isolated for a good year because a lot of those relationships that I had were built on that. And so they didn't fully understand why I was stopping or didn't want to go out and didn't want to do those things. So there's grieving from losing friendships and relationships or things that you thought were one way. And then when you removed something like that, it wasn't that way anymore. So no, it was not straightforward. That year was a tough year. I spent a lot of time honestly reading. I sought out counselors to help and talk through and get outward perspective. And that was when I really committed hard to identifying what my spiritual beliefs were, because it was the only thing I felt like I could do to make myself feel better. But no, that was a very hard year. That was not an easy thing. It was easy to know, hey, I need to stop. But losing all of that and having all that change was a very difficult time, and it's very isolating. The faith kept me on to realize I'm closing doors because more doors will open and the people I'm supposed to be living with are going to come in. And so I kept that in front of my top of my mind and in front of my face, quite literally, on my window of my bathroom, in my car, on my phone. Like I did whatever I could to remind my subconscious that this was temporary and this was the right path.
It's so powerful, because I had so many similar experiences with the loss and the loneliness and the grief around my social circles and my habits that I had relied on, and my relationship with my husband changed.
Yeah.
Because that was part of our like winding down or end of the week or meal preparation. And so I love that you are sharing that you were just continually keeping it in front of you to remind yourself that it was going to get better. Because I think when we're talking about healing and when we're looking at the longevity of what we want, how long we want to live and how we want to treat our bodies, it's not necessarily going to be easy.
But so worth it.
But it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. But it wasn't easy staying where I was at either.
Oh, good point.
So it's just like those type of sayings. I know that people say them and we read them on social media, but like, man, just constantly reminding myself, like my life was not easy then either. So like, at least I'm deciding the hard that it's going to be now.
Right. It's the choose your hard. And my video is now frozen in a very sad and worried face. So I'm going to keep going with it. I am smiling over here. I don't know what happened to my video, but yes, it's choose your hard. And you mentioned, what is your kryptonite? So what are those things for you that as you are on this journey to healing that might pull you back in?
So that's a great question. And so my kryptonite was more substance abuse and altering my consciousness, you could say, because it was very easy for me to just say, I'm going to eat this and only this. Like I did that prior to it to get big and have all the muscles and do all the things. Is like I could stay on that regimen, no problem. So I'm lucky that I never looked at food that way. Mine was more around that social, being the funny guy, not letting people know and me being vulnerable, etc.
Yeah.
So it was more not letting myself get pulled back into that unconscious dialogue that I used to get through most of my childhood. And that in itself was hard because I never felt like I had an authentic identity. So it's like my kryptonite was anything to take me away from that present moment, but it didn't happen to be food. And so I was lucky in that. So for me, it was more of that stuff. Was like I could not put myself in social situations. I didn't want people to offer me alcohol or anything like that because I was too weak, and I'd be like, yep, all right, let's do it. Just couldn't do it.
Right. Well, and thoughts are kryptonite. 80% of our thoughts are recycled from yesterday. So
So true.
how are we catching ourselves in those moments? Like those things that precipitated you making that decision to make a change. It is powerful, and we can change. We can change our thoughts.
Yeah. And being patient, right? Like,
Right.
you had some programs running for a long time. I know it looks crazy to some people, but like, I just had to leave a breadcrumb trail through my life each day on the person that I was aiming to be. So it's like, consciously, you're not going to catch yourself all the time. And so the more things that I left to see, whether it's this quote or a picture of one of my good friends that reminded me of the direction I'm going, or who knows what it was, they had to be everywhere I was at as a reminder. And I would swap those things out too as my life changed, as it progressed, or maybe something else more meaningful. An example of this would be I went and attended someone's church, a friend, and the pastor handed out blocks, and the whole message was like, don't let anything block you from being the person you want to be. So I kept that block in my car for like 5 years.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it could evolve. Now I don't have it in my car, but it was like, that grounded me in the person I wanted to be every time I saw it.
So it's this combination of thinking about things can be different, and then reminding yourself of what is possible and how do you step into that version of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for me, because like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but like, now I have a different circle, and I get to see these people each day.
Yeah.
And that is the reminder, not all these other things I had to artificially plant in my life because I didn't have these people and this career then.
Yeah. So many things are different than what my life looked like 5 years ago, like vastly different. And it's like, I'm still me, and the relationships that were meant to continue and maintain, like my relationship with my spouse is stronger than ever. Like, it's better than ever, which I didn't think it could be. And the other people, it's that whole season, reason, or lifetime with friendships. They just weren't meant to continue the journey with me. And that's okay. And it's okay.
It is. But you had to be okay with that though, too. And that, I
Right.
mean, there's just a lot of uncomfortable and some fear and some emotions you got to push through. And that's why, back to the faith part is like, why is someone going to even choose to do that?
Yeah.
It's like, you have to have something bigger than yourself. And I definitely needed that. I needed to think of the impact and the ripple effect that, if I don't turn and become the person that I want to be, what will that ripple effect be?
Mm-hmm.
As well as if I do. And it was more clear how horrible things could be if I didn't make the changes, that motivated me enough to make the changes.
Yeah. Well, and people feel like, I think time can feel very scarce. It's the one commodity that can't really be replenished. And what I appreciate about your approach, and you give so many at the end of each chapter, you offer, throughout the book, you offer pro tips. And then at the end of each chapter, you give the chapter takeaways, and then offer people reflection and questions. And I just think this is such a valuable investment of time, because what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? What else are you going to do with your time? So you might as well be taking steps towards a healthier version of yourself so you can have more time and better quality of time.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more.
Well, is there anything that we did not talk about today that before you came on, you thought, oh, I really want to make sure we have a chance to discuss X, Y, or Z?
I mean, maybe a personal question, even for you, is just like, some of the questions that you asked me about, like what was there a aha moment for you and a turning point for you where it really shook things up? Was it a series of events that led you to saying, I'm pivoting? I don't want to keep doing this same life day after day. I'm always curious to hear that for other people that I know have taken that head on too.
We had a very specific situation in our family that I found extraordinarily upsetting. And I found myself dive head deep into a pool of self-pity and depression. And I woke up one day and it was like a light bulb literally went off. And I asked myself, why? Why is this upsetting me so much? And I think it's one of those moments because I think so many of us spend our adulthood trying to untangle and unpack our childhoods. Like
Yes.
everything that happened before age 18 is so profoundly influential in how we operate as adults, but working in elder care and working in nursing homes with people who are 100 and still recapping the stories from their childhood. And they have spent their entire life carrying the baggage. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And so this thing happened in our family. And I spent 6 months just really swimming in it, eyeball deep in it. It was also around the time I decided to stop drinking. And then I just thought, why is this bothering me so much? And I just stopped and got curious, Jason. And I thought, if I can figure out how to stop thinking about this thing, and if I can figure out how to change my relationship with alcohol, I think I could help other people do the same thing. And so it was literally like I'm driving to work and I'm like, what the actual heck? Why am I still thinking about this? And why does it bother me so much? And so that's where I began this whole self-discovery exploration around expectations and values and boundaries and thoughts. And it's what my whole program is based around. Because as I show up as a family caregiver, it's influenced by all those things: boundaries, expectations, thoughts, my values. And I want to go through life feeling good. I want to go through life laughing and being happy and feeling strong. So that was a really pivotal moment, and then as for my health also, just recently, I realized I had lost 4 pounds of muscle. So that first aha many years ago was around my mental health.
Gotcha.
And now I'm really focused on my biological health. Like, I'm 53. How do I want to feel? What do I want to have the capacity to do for the next 50 years? And how do I get there? So it's really I'm so grateful to have found the gym and you, and I'm excited to continue to unpack and read your book.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words because there's a lot of insecurity that can pop up in your head of like, did I explain that? Will this even help anyone? So it's still good to hear there are some valuable things in there that help people, because that's the goal of all of this, is like to create the community and have more people hopefully figure out their own way by witnessing our process.
Right. That's absolutely the goal. Well, I am going to put in the show notes a link on where to find the book, to buy the book, and how people can connect with you and continue to be in community with you and learn from you. And any final thoughts for caregivers, people who are out there in the world taking care of somebody and they're kind of struggling to take care of their own selves?
Yeah. The man, there's a lot are popping in my head, but I'd say you are no exception to the rule. Like life is going to happen to all of us at some point. And so to keep thinking you'll worry about yourself later, the biggest illusion is thinking there is more time. And in order for you to actually truly devote yourself to your like potential, to whatever it is you're giving care to, you have to make sure you're filling that cup too. Because eventually that bill will come due. Mm-hmm. And you will not be able to do it anymore at all. And that's a huge hole you leave in the world. So it's like, you got to take that truth head on because it can save you a lot of time, energy, and suffering to know, like, I must fill my cup. It's a must. You have to put those things into your life.
And we don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. Like, you could do it right now. Yeah.
Yes. And don't put an expectation. I mean, you will do what is right for you, but like, don't think it has to be what I did or Michelle did or somebody else. Is like, don't talk yourself out of it. Just move forward and move into filling your cup in the way that sounds best to you in that moment.
I love that. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome.